Oh boy, this next place we're gonna be heading to is even way hotter than the forms of how it does it on Pyramid Park based off from Egypt, but we'll just have to stick around with it anyway. Hey, what's up everyone? It is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I am back for yet again for the likes of the Merxy Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario Party 7 for the Nintendo GameCube. So I believe last weekend is the fact that we actually did manage to win through the most unique board in the entire game, which appears to be Windmillville, because that board does have a lot of investing to deal with. So as a result though, yeah, I somehow managed to win that board from last week. So yeah, today for this entire weekend, ranging from today's day is the 5th of February and tomorrow will be the 6th of February. That means we're going to be tackling through the final board in Mario Party 7, and that's what appears to be Bowser's Enchanted Inferno. So as you can tell, that this takes place in somewhat even more of an ocean full of lava this time around, along with the forms of 4 islands, as you can tell from that particular board's design like this. And before we get into more details about the actual board itself, this is the unlockable board, by the way, and to unlock this board, you have to complete Solo Cruise for the first time. So because of that though, this means you have to go through all 6 boards in the Solo Cruise mode, and then when you get to the point on the actual final board on that particular mode, Bowser's Enchanted Inferno, then sure enough, if you somehow win that particular board, then you would able to actually not only get yourselves more cruise mileage points, but also you would able to actually unlock this entire board, along with the actual final boss minigame as well. Because yes, similar to the forms of how it does it on, let's just say in Mario Party 3, and Mario Party 4, and Mario Party 5, that, you know, every time whenever you're able to actually complete something in a single player campaign, not only does it give you the forms of the finale boards, but also the final boss minigames here and there as well. So meaning about the fact that, like, let's just say for example, in Mario Party 3, that's how we have, you know, Waluigi's Island as in a Battle Royale map, and also Backtrack board and the dual maps, and also you get yourselves Stardust Battle. And as far as Mario Party 4, that you get yourselves Bowser's Gnarly Party, and in addition to that though, the final battle minigame in the Etc. catalog. And in Mario Party 5, you get Bowser Nightmare and Frightmare as the actual the story minigame. So, but in this game in particular though, in addition to trying to unlock Bowser's Enchanted Inferno, you also manage to able to get yourselves Bowser's Lovely Lift, which, speaking of that though actually, it's the fact that in terms of the forms of the Solo Cruise mode on this entire board, basically though, the objective on that board, at least if you ever played the Solo Cruise mode, basically though, in order to able to win the board, is that not only do you have to able to get the star, cost about 20 coins by the way, but also if you get a singular star, you have to be sure you need to head back into the beginning portion of the board, you know, with that particular center island of the actual board, you know, with that Bowser marking. Well, because of that though, if you somehow manage to make your way there, then you have to participate in this one last challenge, which appears to be by the forms of, like I said earlier, Bowser's Lovely Lift, which in this case the actual story, or should I say one of the Bowser minigames, or to be more specifically, the final boss kind of minigames like that. So, and when you're ever able to actually accomplish that particular minigame at the end, then sure enough, you would able to actually win the board. But if not though, then you have to try again. So because of that though, yeah, at the very least you do get the continue system. So because of that though, because thankfully you can able to continue where you left off. So, and speaking of continue where you left off, in that particular minigame, Bowser's Lovely Lift, basically though, if you failed that minigame, you get kicked out of the minigame, which by the way, you have to do that minigame within 1 attempt by the way, not any single mistake, because, well, if you failed, not only does it able to actually kick you out of the minigame, but also you lose 1 star, and then basically though, all you have to do is basically you have to find another star again. So, yeah, Ramsey repeat basically. But if you somehow manage to able to get back into Bowser's Lovely Lift minigame, basically though, you can able to continue where you left off. Like, I'll get to more details about that as soon as we're able to actually get into... Well, as far as I would like to mention briefly about that minigame, that particular minigame requires you to able to make your way all the way up to the very top of the actual lift, in this case, floor 100, and basically though, yeah, let's just say for example, if I somehow manage to able to let the lift go into 50, and if I failed that minigame though, I'll get kicked out and lose a star, but if I come back into that minigame though, I can able to resume the actual minigame itself. So at least that's that, I suppose. But of course, you don't want to let the computer players win though, because if you let the computer players win, not only do you have to restart the board again, but also you won't be able to see the epilogue of where, basically though, I'll get into more details about that later. So as you can see on screen, we have 4 islands to go through. You know, very similar to the forms of how it does it on, actually I'll get to more on that. So, basically though, with those 4 islands right here, thankfully though, unlike any forms of how it does it on Wario's Battle Canyon from Mario Party 1 and Mystery Land from Mario Party 2, thank God, no need for happening spaces in order to go from one island to the other, because instead, the only way you can go from one island to the other is by using the actual split paths as arrows for your direction. So thankfully, going to one island to the other is much more easier and simple this time, so at least I'm gladly this was improved. And there are quite a few happening spaces like this one right here, and basically you actually have a one-on-one fight against with Mini Bowser, and if you somehow win to him, basically though you get 20 coins, but if you lose to him, however though, you lose 10 coins. And there's also this Hopscotch thingy right here, as you probably already noticed ever since when Wario about to be participating in that event, that somehow if you pick the wrong Hopscotch, as you can tell, you fell into the lava and you lose 10 coins. But if you manage to make your way to the very end of that Hopscotch, you get yourselves a star for free. So there's another emphasis on the fact that sometimes in certain events, that sometimes it gives you a freebie star. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool. And speaking of coolness, here we have another new minigame we haven't seen yet. Cardinal Roll. Look at the card in the center of the screen, then ground pound the matching card pair. So yeah, basically we have to work together to able to, well, beat the first team to win 3 times makes the match. Watch out, however, because otherwise that, well, you probably know what the actual instruction says, so, or advices as far as I'm usually concerned with this, though. If I kind of think about it, though, this minigame does remind me of a lot of the... Well, it does remind me of the exact same minigame as in Mario Party DS, except the fact that, well, this is on a console game, not on handheld. Although it's kind of similar, except that, you know, different graphics and stuff like that, so... And also, we are not so much smaller, like, certain bugs or ants and stuff like that, but you probably get the gist of it. So as I said before, today's day is of course the 5th of February today, in this case in 2022 today, so that, well, you notice about the fact that ever since in yesterday, according to the forms of that particular the days at the moment, that usually since yesterday, that the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics just got started. Well, in addition to that though, we also managed to see the opening ceremony of the actual Winter Olympics so far, and I'm gonna say, I was quite impressed with this though, even though that much like in last year in Tokyo 2021 Summer Olympics, that sadly there won't be any spectators once again, which we've already pointed out ever since in the beginning of the year, especially noticeable. It's bad enough that as far as what Maxi has already mentioned about this, ever since in the Super Mario 3D All-Stars Let's Play, it's bad enough that there's another variant out there, which is a bit inconsistent, I'm telling you. And yeah, you totally right, Mario. This thing is so stinky and stuff like that. Well, usually because I accidentally just pressed the L button to able to activate the taunt mode, and still I'm very glad that the Mario's voice clip, "Hey Stinky," does make a comeback after Mario Party 6. So, because it's pretty obvious, because this game is more likely the expansion to Mario Party 6, like I said, so it's just the fact that the actual locations of certain boards is a lot different, so... Anyway, so let's see. Ah, darn it, I got a 1. A pretty lame one, as far as I keep getting and such. And by the way, that's another happening space right there, is the fact that the club though just managed able to grab the star. You know, it kind of reminds me of one of those missions in Super Mario 64 actually, that in Shifting Sandlands, and you have to able to obtain a actual power star on that game. Well, you can't necessarily grab the star from here, I don't think, though, because what really happens, though, is the fact that Club, though, just managed able to move the star space to the other spot of the island. So, yeah, that's basically how this goes. And speaking of the actual gameplay mechanics of Bowser's Enchanted Inferno, we're actually going back into the forms of the classic style of Mario Party in terms of the gameplay style. Like, rather than just trying to able to invest things, unlike in Windmillville, or going for the actual linear board, unlike in Begonia Peak, or riding on chain jumps in order to able to get stars from everyone, from the likes of Pyramid Park, and even the forms of getting the actual star from one of those 3 chances of those treasure chests from the likes of Neon Heights. It's basically Grand Canal all over again, except the fact that out of all the actual boards, in terms of Mario Party 7 actually, Bowser's Enchanted Inferno, to me though, in my opinion, is probably my favorite board in the entire game. Most notably because of the forms of how the fact that, well, for one noticeable thing, I'm very glad this is a much more of the improvement version of the likes of Island Hopping board. And on top of all that stuff though, I really enjoyed the music on that board though. Especially noticeable, it's almost like a fever dream when it comes to likely hearing Bowser's theme every single moment's notice. And speaking of the Bowser-themed boards, we have not seen a Bowser-themed board since Mario Party 5. Well, technically, Mario Party 6 didn't count, honestly, because it's more accurately just calls it Inferno Tower. And plus, because that board is actually a solo mode exclusive, so I don't think there's any multiplayer experience on that board, so I don't usually count that, unless if you have to. So, at least that's entirely up to you, for the sake of likely if you're trying to count that. So, but I digress. And, also, I do really like the actual board events in this entire board. Like, I've already mentioned one of those happening events they obviously include is obviously one-on-one competition with, you know, Mini Bowser that you can have to able to shove him off of that platform, which it does remind me of a little bit from Bowser Wrestling in Mario Party 4, except the fact that no need to press L and R in order to able to advance, instead we have to tap the A button rapidly, so yeah, I guess that's the only difference there. And, like I mentioned before, another one of those happening spaces involves around the star space movements and stuff like that. And, there's a Hopscotch one, like I said earlier, but, the only thing is worth noting for the sake of the Hopscotch event is the fact that, if you somehow manage to able to step on one of those correct, Hopscotch platforms, is that usually it happens when the actual icon shows up with the control stick icons. Well, if you somehow land on the wrong, Hopscotch platform, then the icon of the control sticks will disappear, and sure enough, you fell into the lava, and sure enough, you lose coins in the process, though, so something to keep in mind for the sake of the forms of, like, I've already discovered that ever since, likely, just recently, so. Alright, so looks like meanwhile for Wario though, he somehow managed to claim 30 coins thanks to able to actually beating Donkey Kong on Fine Country, so yeah, that seems totally easy for him, as far as I'm usually concerned with that stuff though. And Luigi gets a 10. And he's not going to go into the item shop yet, because he's going to save it up for getting that star on the second island, as on the left, so. And of course Luigi got the Piranha Plant Orb, so he might as well able to place it at some point, so. Anywho though, as far as what Pac-Man has already mentioned about this, ever since new forms have been The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past Let's Play. Actually, I'll get to more on that in a second, because here's another happening space here, which basically this allows you to able to force to go into one of the 4 Bowser cannons, and basically though, every time you hop onto the actual, the Bowser cannons, thanks to Mini Bowser or Koopa Kid forces you to go in. It's all predetermined by random, by the way. It can either aim on, I don't know, on the right island, or the left island, or the bottom island or the top island and vice versa every time if you land on certain things, and also it actually shoots you into a different spots of the actual island. So that might be something worth noting for, but anywho, so let's meet up with DK as you can see. So because I am seriously need to get that star so badly, because as far as I'm aware, Warrior was definitely in first right about now, thanks to the forms of that particular easy victory for that fine country, so... Oh, sweet! The singular star. That's the only item I do need, because, you know, I just really want that star so badly. But somehow we have to go for a difficult minigame, which is a bridge too short, so we'll stick around with it. Run across bridges. If one breaks, you have to go back and take another path. So, yeah. If you pick a different bridge, then it's probably best to able to, you know, it's gonna have to do it before or after when DK managed to able to get into one of those broken bridges and then decides to choose it, so... It's hard to explain because I know for the fact that it has been a really long time since I actually experienced this minigame though, but it's also another reason why that I've noticed that this minigame never comes back in any compilation games, including the top 100, because it seems totally obvious, because this is without a doubt, it's kind of luck based at points, especially noticeable that every time you ever revisited this minigame, I think I've already mentioned about this, didn't I? But let's not explain about that right about now again for that minigame, because I am victorious, or victoriness, or victorious. Even though it's hard to explain, because it has been about a week ago since I actually last played Mario Party 7, especially noticeable for the sake of doing commentary itself too. But regardless of all that stuff though, there's my first star in Bowser's Enchanted Inferno. Awesome sauce. So, relatively speaking, I'm now on first. Awesome. Actually, something's worth mentioning, actually, is the fact that, in addition to this board, along with the forms of one of those boards in Mario Party DS called, Bowser's Pinball Machine, or, yeah, just Bowser's Pinball Machine, I think, relatively speaking, at least if I recall correctly, Bowser's Enchanted Inferno might actually be the only Mario Party console game to be able to actually feature none of those Bowser spaces at all, which is pretty odd considering how the fact that Bowser's name is on the board. So despite that, however though, there aren't any Bowser spaces to be found, so no need able to play multitude of, you know, multiplayer minigames all the time, ranging from, you know, Thumbstickle Course or Thunder Wall, and heck, even with the forms of Magical Journey, so... I would assure you that this board might take a short amount of time, at least if I was assuming, I'm hoping. Well, at least depending on the forms of mic events and stuff like that, which that might be still relatively the case, so... Anyway, so it looks like the Bowser time event is almost gonna full up. Speaking of the Bowser time event, specifically in this board, unlike in any other boards throughout the whole game has to offer, usually in other boards does have multitude of Bowser time events, ranging from destroying shops and also picture souvenir and stuff like that, and also some random events like in Grand Canal's case that it changes the bridges into Bowser bridges, which in addition to changing the normal bridges into Bowser bridges, they also managed to include 9 of those Bowser spaces, which is, not gonna lie, a bit too much for my taste, even for the actual board itself like this. And also, as far as I'm concerned, let me see, I'm also able to purchase something like Twister Orb, despite it's a bit cheap, but regardless of such though, I get the feeling I'm also able to approach to my, let me check in the map. Oh sweet, I can able to actually get that second star. Huh, awesome. Awesome for my number 10, as far as I'm usually got anyway, even though I didn't pay attention to what specific number I got from that particular dice block, so 2 stars so far, so that's pretty top notch and awesome. Alright, so let's see what the next star space is going to be at, and it's on the island on the right, or should I say on the right island, as far as I would like to say things a little bit more sensical. And all the while, I'm also able to hop onto the cannon and whatnot. Oh, wait a second, it's gonna blast me onto that right island, isn't it? Yeah. That's kind of a bad thing, but regardless of such though, I honestly don't mind it too much because I've only got 1 coin after spending 20 coins from that star, and also 15 coins from that Twister Orb, but whatever. I don't mind if I get injured by the forms of that Bowser time event coming up. Alright, back to trial and error again, so let's just hope that one of my partners doesn't punch me off onto the actual arena, so we'll just... Okay, I keep thinking I was Luigi for a second, but I'm Mario, of course. So as you probably already know, that I'm obviously going to be playing as Mario as the actual main character in terms of the finale boards has to offer. In addition to that though, as far as computer players, I've managed to choose obviously Luigi, Wario, and Waluigi since Mario Party 3, 4, 5, 6, and DS, and 9, Island Tour, 10, and also briefly on Star Rush, the top 100, and Super. And would you look at that, there's our first tie in the game. Ah, jeez, I wasn't expecting that, because somehow both of our teams managed to have like 8 titles each, so the maximum you can get up to is like 16, so yeah, I guess that makes it obvious. Alright, Bowser time event on the forms of Bowser's Enchanted Inferno, and it only has 1 event. And as you can see, every time when the star was actually on the current island, like this island for instance, that island is about to sunk, and if some players manage to get involved in that island, I believe you lose about a half of your coins if you touch the lava. And all the while though, you'll be blasted all the way back to the start of the board, and after that though, the star space is also moved into any kind of different random parts of the island. So, in this case, now the star is going to be located on the top island. So, yeah, that begs the question for that. And also that we can no longer actually access to the forms of the right island until when there's a next Bowser time event, at least depending on what star placement is it going to be at. So, yeah, it's always targeting where the island where the star is. So yeah, that's basically how this goes. So anyway, as far as what Pac-Man has already mentioned about this, ever since in the actual The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past Let's Play, that we did manage to test out the forms of the Kingdom Hearts games on the Nintendo Switch, specifically the cloud versions of every single games. And, well, as far as you probably already noticed by the fact that we're actually kind of disappointed with the actual cloud versions of these games, because, well, I'm sure they'll explain more details about that, although, as you can see on screen, that Luigi managed to take a ride on that Bowser roller coaster, which it does remind me of that one of those happening events from the likes of Toy Dream from the likes of Mario Party 5, that basically though you have to be able to jump and able to collect coins while you take a ride on one of those vehicles or contraptions, or except the fact that you don't usually ride on the train this time, so instead you're able to take a ride on the roller coaster. And also it does almost reminds me of also from the likes of Mushroom Park board from Mario Party 10, that's how you're able to take a ride on the forms of the regular coaster, except the fact that rather than collecting coins, instead you're able to actually collect mini-stars as opposed to the regular coins, unlike the good old days of Mario Party. So, but at least we're very glad that we got it over with when it comes to likely the mini-star duology games as far as I'm concerned. Well, technically, Island Tour does the same thing, except it only has it on one board, and that's what appears to be on Star-Crossed Skyway, at least as far as I'm concerned what that board is called. But I digress. Alright, back to Pokepamo again. So, I wonder if I can able to get another new record on this minigame though. But I'll see what happens there. Alright, got my A button ready. Ugh. Oh, that was quite painful, but I got myself another new record. Except this time it's like, likely 6 milliseconds, so even though it's not much though, but close enough, which I'll definitely take. So, yeah, about what the forms of the Kingdom Hearts games on the Switch, mainly the cloud versions as far as I'm concerned. The first game we did try out was Kingdom Hearts 1, in this case Kingdom Hearts Final Mix on the Switch, oh my god, the frame rate looks a lot worse than I thought it was. Like, specifically, that the biggest problem I have with the cloud version of those games, it requires an internet in order to play it freely. And as a result, though, that if you go out somewhere, unfortunately, though, I'm out of luck. Although, luckily, I've actually got the demo of those games, so I want to test those out as soon as I can. And plus, because of how the fact that why they're going for cloud systems in the first place, is because, well, despite those games are pretty big, especially in Kingdom Hearts 3 case, although I understand with the forms of Kingdom Hearts 3 because that game was massive enough as it is, but as far as compilation games are concerned, well, I just wish they were able to do it its own release rather than just cloud versions. Like, I don't understand, because as far as I'm concerned, this is those games are usually it's more like made from PlayStation 2 and stuff like that, and in the forms of PSP on Birth by Sleep in some cases, and the 3DS Dream Drop Distance. And I can possibly understand when it comes to likely 0.2 Birth by Sleep as well, because between both, you know, Birth by Sleep 0.2, and especially noticeable with Kingdom Hearts 3, that both of those games are entirely made from Unreal Engine, so I can possibly understand that. But as far as other games though, why can't they just do it as a own physical release? Like, I just don't understand. So as far as for my experience of the demos themselves, like I said, I tested out, I would say 5 games on this entire collection, which are Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and also Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, and like I said before, Birth by Sleep 0.2, a Fragmentary Passage, and finally Kingdom Hearts 3. And as far as my experience on the actual demo on the Switch, the quality is a bit average, despite the fact that it doesn't feel nearly as powerful as the PS4 versions of those games. And on top of all that stuff though, the frame rate is now dipped as opposed to 60 frames per second, unlike, you know, the PS4 versions. So yeah, and another thing is worth noting for also is that for some reason I just almost get confused about the controls on the Switch version for some reason. Although that's mainly because I'm more accustomed to the forms of the PlayStation DualShock 4 controller at this rate, because that was the only type of controller I'm actually used to. Although, mind you, the actual controls-wise on the Switch version of Kingdom Hearts games, it does kind of remind me like I was playing through the, you know, one of those DS games on Kingdom Hearts, specifically 350 over 2 days, and also Recoded and Dream Drop Distance. So, as a result, though, I think I'm sort of used to that, but, as a result, though, that maybe seems the case. And also, though, I've noticed about the fact that there are quite a few issues I have with the forms of the cloud versions of those games while I tried out the demo. Although, mind you, about the fact, I suppose that Pac-Man has already mentioned about this as well, that those cloud versions of those games are about to be releasing this month. Specifically, I would say from about 5 days to go now. At least if I was assuming that correctly. I'm pretty sure it's like 5 days left now, so let me just double check on the calendar to see if I'm correct or not. Yes, I was correct, so it's like 5 days left until the actual cloud versions of those games is coming, so... So anyway, and also though I've noticed that, oh god, the frame rate is even worse, and especially noticeable it doesn't help about the fact that it's all internet requirement. So as a result though, depending on my internet connection was actually strong enough, I might be alright, but the problem with that is the fact that if you're trying to go out somewhere, like I said, then you're out of luck. Especially noticeable, you can't play those games on the go anywhere, so you always have to rely on internet connection, which is really bothering me. And also another thing is the fact that it doesn't help about the fact that there's no time limit on the actual demo, because I think, as far as for my progression as far as I'm concerned, whenever I got to the point where on Kingdom Hearts 1, I've only got to the second day, of Destiny Island. And in Kingdom Hearts 2, I've almost tried to beat Twilight Throne, the first actual boss in the game. That was on day 3 in Twilight Town in Roxas segment. And I was literally so close to finish off the actual first boss, but then the demo ended. And as far as dream drop distance, as far as I'm concerned, I've only got to the point where I was on the Riku's dream segment on Traverse Town. And for Birth by Sleep 0.2, I was trying to expect able to find the 5th and final gear, but the demo just ends. And finally for Kingdom Hearts 3 though, I've only got to the point on the next segment on Olympus. So, and as far as I'm aware, because I actually skipped cutscenes because I already experienced cutscenes before, especially noticeable, it's bad enough there's no time limit, like I said. It's almost like Masterpiece mode from Super Smash Bros. Brawl all over again, except the fact that, well, to make matters worse, it's gonna be on the cloud surfaces, which I honestly have no words. And it's bad enough about the fact that the price tag is going to be once again ridiculous, especially noticeable this is all digital and stuff like that. I think the entire cost of the actual entire whole set is almost going to be roughly almost $80 or $90, and it's like, no way, there is absolutely no way of getting those games on digital surfaces for cloud versions of those kinds of games. Although I still enjoyed those games, don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of a shame that you can't play them on the go, because again, internet connection is required. So if I were you, I think I should probably go ahead and just skip the Switch version entirely and just try to able to purchase the PS4 versions instead, because that way, despite the fact that you can't play those games on the go, but regardless of such note, the pricing on those games right now cost a lot cheaper, especially noticeable about the fact that since that PS4 is doing so well back in the day. So if I were you, get the PS4 version of those Kingdom Hearts games and you'll be definitely a good to go, especially on physical forms. So, and I suppose that's pretty much it really. So yeah, I honestly have no idea why I managed able to try out the Switch version, so yeah, it's definitely not worth it. Especially noticeable, it doesn't help that, you know, it just, I have no idea why they choose that. But anyway, let's just deal with winging it, which I've already managed able to button mash all the way higher up. So, although I would like to mention about the forms of specific details about more stuff about the forms of Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics is happening, but I think I should probably save that details up until tomorrow because, I just keep on ranting about the forms of the Kingdom Hearts games on the Switch of how badly it performed on the Switch cloud versions. Like, seriously, I'd rather just let it scrap the actual cloud versions of the PS2 era of Kingdom Hearts games and that'll be good to go. But nope, it just does it, so that's a waste of opportunity. Like, I seriously think this is a waste of opportunity. Alright, so DK minigame again, but looks like we're doing multiplayer again. Please, for the love of God, please, can we able to actually play a different minigame? Well, despite the fact that we've already played all 3 of them, so can we just take a break on Stomp Change from now on? I mean, surely that won't be that hard, but just saying. Alright, so, oh goody, we got Bananas Faster. We've already played this before. I think the last time we played this was actually in Begonia Peak, if I recall correctly. But somehow in my first attempt on that minigame, it was kind of sluggish with all that timing and what have you. But let's just make sure if we're able to get this time, so... Okay, so I somehow only got 1 banana, so I think that's average. I was expecting to get that, the bunch. Oh, nice! And I just realized that the banana roulette is actually in ×2, so that means since I've got 7 bananas, that means I might as well get 14, and Warrior might as well get 12, and then Waluigi will get, I would say 4, and for Luigi, I'm pretty sure he'll get 8, at least, yeah, it's roughly 8. Okay, so yeah, let's not talk about the forms of the Kingdom Hearts games cloud versions on the Switch. Actually, there's another thing I would classify for mention something as well. Oh god, the low quality when it comes to both Kingdom Hearts 3 and Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep 0.2. Oh, they're on low quality, which I will say, I think I should probably still stick around with the PS4 versions because still, the visuals in those two games on the PS4, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful on the PS4. But for some reason, on the Switch, it just dips down and then the frame rate looks a lot worse. Especially, it's weird that how the fact that in HD 1.5 and 2.5 remakes, on the cloud version of that game, I was expecting if they were able to actually have 60 frames per second, on just like the PS4 version and the Xbox One version, but nope, apparently we didn't. So, I guess it's kind of similar situation as the forms of how it does it on Sonic Forces and also Team Sonic Racing and Sonic Colors Ultimate, but the only thing I'm really worried about right about now, in terms of the forms of the Switch release of Sonic Frontiers until coming up, mainly at the end of the year, I'm really hoping that game will not feature the cloud version on that Switch version, because if it does, I'm gonna have to be able to actually just let's just forget it. I just had enough of all that conversation with that stupid cloud version. Because, seriously, whoever thought that was a good idea? It just ruins everything. At least to me, anyway. Anyway, let's just play a Mario Party game from now on, so that way it'll cheer me up. Alright, picture this. I think we've already played this before. Yeah, I think we've played this, so... And let's see what specific picture image we'll go for, and it's gonna be a car one again, so... Because I know for the fact that we're missing out on other two variations of this minigame as well. Like I do know there's one involves around the plant, and also one involves around the snails and stuff like that, like a spring breeze or something, so... At least as far as I'm usually guessing with that, so... Alright, not too shabby there, for likely getting the actual exact match from the center of the screen. Ah, dang it, that was way too early. Alright. Luigi got it. Oh, dang. Looks like Waluigi is actually getting pretty close. But, just have to keep on tapping the I button or occasional left button, so that way I'll be able to get the last point. Oh, wait. That is a lot of conversation I was going to be thinking of. Oh, and another thing I would like to mention about is the fact that for those of you guys if you lived in the United Kingdom, the Princess and the Frog film, the Disney animated classic film, I should say, that film is now 12 years old in the UK version. Well, it already did on the American version back in last year in 2021, because obviously that film originally came out in 2009, so it makes it pretty obvious. So, along with the forms of the another film that it also came out as in 12 years ago, which is for some reason is Astro Boy, the movie. I honestly don't see the film because, well, it's not my cup of tea, but I know it does have its fans, but not for me anyway though. We'll have to be honest here. Alright, so I think no matter what though, I'll use the slow shroom just in case for the orb star comes into play until at the very end, and let's meet up with DK again. So that way, I don't know if I might as well get a chance that I can able to get another star, or just a whole bunch of coins for multiplayer's sake. And plus, dang it, I was hoping for a single player, because there was one single player minigame that I haven't experienced yet, and that is Jumpman. So it's kind of a shame honestly, because that minigame was overall pretty top notch and all that stuff, but it's a shame we didn't actually play it for ourselves, so... Alright, so let's see what minigame are we playing, and... Oh, how many times do we actually played Stomp Change? I mean, I think I've already lost count on that, honestly, but we'll just have to stick around with it. So, we'll just deal with it. Alright, here we go. I think I get the feeling I've got the most bananas though. Just like any other runs. I was quite shocked that Wario hasn't got that much though. But I'll take 16 coins from converted for that bananas and stuff. So I'm alright with this. Oh, I suppose I should probably mention about this as well. Me and Sonic and Mighty somehow managed able to sign up for the actual booking for our holiday trip coming up, and during at some point on this June. That will happen until on the 21st of June, which I'll explain more of that as soon as we get to the next turn, because we have a new minigame, Spray Anything. Kind of an interesting one. 3 players fire water balls at the lone player. You must try to avoid being soaked. Alrighty then. And let's have a look at the advice. If you are firing water balls and an ally hits you, you'll be stunned. Check your fire. So, yeah, this is kind of an interesting minigame to say the least. But I do have my main gripe with this minigame though, which I'll get to more in a second. So basically in this one, all you have to do is basically you have to spray the water ball at the solo player who is actually constantly getting tilted by that tilted platform, and that's pretty much it really. However, if you think to yourself about the fact that maybe that water ball can able to actually easily stun the forms of the single player and just let the solo player fall into the water while the platform keeps on tilting and the minigame is over, right? Right? Well, you're wrong. Because if the solo player just touches one water ball, just any water ball, the game is pretty much over. And ladies and gentlemen, that is my biggest problem I have with this minigame. Because, well, I'm sorry that the single player does have a little bit of a disadvantage for the sake of that particular minigame in mind. Especially noticeable, I kind of wish they were able to have like, just 3 hits, and I mean that will be good to go. But, apparently it doesn't, so. Alright, Bowser Time event again, except now it's gonna sink the left island, because that's where the star is, and now the right island is now rising back up. And all the while that both Waluigi and Luigi somehow both managed to lose a half of their coins, so ouch. Specifically on Luigi's case, because he lost 30 coins. I mean, that was just painful. Oh, talking of which though, is the fact that the next star space is actually right near, well, except Wario though, because he somehow is going to get launched onto that cannon. But I'm actually getting closer to the star, actually. So anyway, we actually did manage to book the holiday coming up, which is specifically on the 21st of June. That we actually going on to Cyprus. So yeah, I feel like I'm quite familiar with this, especially noticeable that it's been 10 years ago since we've actually last been to Cyprus back in 2012. Despite back in 2012, as far as what Sonic has already told me about this, despite I wasn't in existence until the beginning of the not so good 2020s era. So in his case though, he did tell me about the fact that, well, 2012, as far as the holiday is concerned, is kind of bare bones. Like, for instance, we didn't get a chance to able to go to the beach together, and also we didn't go out in certain places, although we did certainly, but unfortunately though, I felt incredibly bad for able to actually let the others not to go on the beach, which I absolutely have no idea that Sonic suffers from that. But hopefully for this year though, we'll definitely go into one. So, and as far as I'm concerned, we'll basically stay there for just a week. So, yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning for you guys. And it's gonna be on the 21st of June, so basically though, is the fact that whenever when Maxi will get back onto Super Mario 3D All-Stars, specifically when he goes on to Super Mario Sunshine, then basically though, he needs to take a break on that particular playthrough from now on until we decided to take a break on certain recording sessions by the time at the end of June, so... Oh! Darn you, Waluigi! I was literally so close to get that 4th star, but thanks to you able to just land on that happening space. Ugh. But now it's gonna be on right where Wario is. Darn you, Waluigi, sometimes. And all the while I got a 6, and... Ow, I somehow just landed on the red space. Oh, what a bummer. And speaking of bummer, here's a battle minigame to go through. And let's see how much coins we're gonna bet this time. It's gonna be just 10 coins, so... Nothing much, but... We'll try to cope with it anyway. We've already played Heli Popper quite a few times, and same applies to the final countdown. So we'll just stick around with Air Force from now on, because we haven't touched that minigame since Pyramid Park, at least as far as I'm usually trying to count that correctly. So anyways, let's just get a whole bunch of coins by winning this minigame. Alright, not doing too bad there. Well, I think Luigi instantly got in 4th. I was expecting for a new record, but it's actually kind of tricky to get like 100 meters away, so we'll just be alright with that. And let's see how much coins I'll get in the actual coin bag. 28? How convenient.